just beyond the next planet, just beyond the next star.
Been a hell of a run. I never thought it would come to an end.
A brig is bigger than this.
A lot of things change in 200 years.
Here's to the next generation.
All right, hey, welcome back to the Sloppy Modeler. Welcome back to the show and the channel. We are on update number 3 on the NX01 series build. We've completed the NX01, and now we are moving on to the next kit, which is going to be the NX01 Refit. And my intention here is to paint this as a combination of the NX01, moving to the TOS, the original series, and finding the appropriate color scheme is going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think I've got a track or a path to get to that. I'm going to go ahead and light this, and in light of doing the, no pun intended, in light of doing the one we just did, we're going to talk about a couple of changes that I'm going to make on this one. So the first comes in when we deal with these lights, of the navigation lights on the sides. That's a 2-prong light that goes into, it's a plastic piece 2-prong light. I think it's going to be a real challenge because technically what you're supposed to do is one is the nav light and one is an anti-collision blinker. But they're on the same piece of plastic in there, so what I want to do is remove that plastic, try to get a light for the nav light, and try to get a light for the blinker, because I'm going to try to do a blinking circuit on this one. And the lights that I intend to blink, man, this is scary. On the rear of each nacelle is a blinking light. On the back of the bridge is a blinking light. And these two here blink, and underneath blink. So that is, I'm not going to do it with fiber optic. It's just, we'll see, right? That is the goal. I don't know if we'll get there, but that's one of the goals we're going to try to make happen. I'm sure that there's probably also a look at the refit as well. There may be a blinking light on the back of the hull, and I don't know about the underneath. No one's seen it in film, so there are just some animations out there, and that's about it, working from that side of it. So the Enterprise, as we come to it, you know, you've seen this unboxing before, but essentially it's the same thing that we had with the NX01. And I actually am kind of excited because I still have all the parts from the first kit. So here's the secondary hull, or the engineering hull from the last kit. So that gives me at least one extra hull to deal with when I screw this up. Again, these parts are already, I can already feel the mold release on this stuff, right? So here's the real key on this one, is the secondary hull. And we're still going to have the same challenge with the, no, I don't think we're going to have the same challenge with the secondary hull that we had with the back of this, this line here. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of do a U-shaped run here, where we bring the lights in through the nacelle and bring them down, and then bring lights up through the neck. I don't have to go through this pylon. I still have to go through that pylon, which is a double pylon, which is nice, but I don't have to go through this one. So I can really do the bottom lighting in the secondary hull, do the nacelles, and then come in and do the main hull, the primary hull on the lighting effects there. So we've got our work cut out for us on this one. I'm not sure how far we're going to get there due to this coronavirus and working from home, etc., etc. And again, I hope all of you are safe and all of you are doing what you can to keep your family and yourselves in good health. So if I just open this up real quick, maybe I can open it up. The hull is in 3 parts, and it is a tight fit, because it's a snap-together kit. And essentially, let's see if I can pop this somehow. Maybe there. There we go. So it is 3 parts. This is the bottom part, which there are no lights in that bottom section of that hull. This is a little test I was doing with some paint, but there are no lights in that bottom hull at all, so that's not an issue. There are lights, and I'm only really worried about one. So there are like 4 windows, 1, 2, 3, 4 windows there, and maybe a window there, and then this is a hatch, and another port, a hatch. Same thing on the other side, they're symmetrical. I think I can get light, maybe. I think I can get light to those 2 windows. Getting light to those 2, I don't know if I can do that or not. That's going to be, getting light to those 2 windows right there are going to be a huge challenge, because from underneath, really everything's starting to fill in there. There's really not a lot of space. I might be able to put 1 SMD up in there. There's just not a lot of room, so we'll come to that. Maybe we can make that happen, maybe not. Maybe those are going to be black windows that are blacked out. Wouldn't that be the way to do that? Hull fits on there pretty nice from the bottom. There's not a ton of room because they've got this shelving in here. There's not a ton of room for extra lights, but I don't really have to put in there. I have to put 1 in for the rear, and I have to put maybe 2 lights in for the rear. Maybe an anti-collision on the. So I guess this is the top. Maybe an anti-collision down here, or maybe 1 in the belly. But there's plenty of room in the belly. It's just in the top portion there's not a lot of room. But again, I don't have to bring nacelle wires into it and forward. I can bring them into the former hull, primary hull, into this section here, just like I did on the other one. So there's room in there. But yeah, so this is the next route. What I have to do now is take some time and go soak these at length in some detergent, dishwashing soap, and hot water, and because you can literally feel the mold release or the silicone on all of this stuff, and that is very bad for paint. And there's the nacelles, and I think the other pieces that are new that we haven't done before are these 2 here, which are the outer nacelles, and you put the pennants along those. And I guess doing that with the decals is a bit of a challenge. I'm hoping that these decals are as nice as the ones that we just got through with, and that's interesting and exciting. The other thing with this kit, on the NX01 you have these spikes on the front. So the question is, on the spikes on the front, do I light those up along with the spikes, or having the spikes in? Do I light them up, or do I leave them as a do I light them up like I did for the NX01, or do I leave them just painted red? They look much darker red here, so that might be an issue. Maybe I paint them a lot darker red on the inside and then light them up anyway when it comes to that color. Well, thank you for checking in with me. I'm healthy. I'm in good shape. Looking forward to the not in good shape, but I'm healthy and pretty well self-isolated, which is or socially isolated, which is great for now during this challenge. I wish you all the best out there, and we will come back to you with some more additional updates after we get this all cleaned up and start on the drilling process and lighting it up. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Okay, hey, welcome back. Wow, it's a lot easier when you've done one to do the second one, because you know what you're doing and where you're going. Of course, this will completely fall apart on me eventually, but that's all right. So we went to work with the chisel, and we went to work with the drill and the Stanley knife. Actually, my Fisker's finger knife. That thing has been absolutely awesome for me. Let's start at the top, real simple, real fast. I do have all the holes drilled. I mashed off these landing bays again, or landing pads. I think that looked great on the other one, so I'm good with that. I've got my back end glued in there, and I've got the inside masked off for the Raytheon effector. That's ready to go light block. All the holes are drilled and ready to have its work done on those. That's the upper portion. The lower hull, and again, once you've done it once, it's a lot faster. This back end has been glued into place. This does have a part 45 and 46 that glue in to fill in where the inserts would be of this particular part right here. So because you're not going to use that part, you've got an open space in this. It's not a nacelle, or it's just this where the impulse engines go. So which is fine, but they're kind of finicky, and it took me a little bit of carving to get the back to, or the top to fit down onto the back. So just be aware you have to carve up some of that stuff to pull that together. Again, all the holes are drilled, and I've trenched out underneath here. You can see one. I've trenched out that particular section right there. I've trenched out that particular section, and it's that's going to go underneath here. So if you remember from just the NX01, same thing, and that's ready for lights. Now, what I'm going to do for lights, and I'll explain it when I get back from light blocking, is I'm actually going to use, I'm going to cut this piece in half. This is going to be flat, because I'm going to cut it in half and eliminate this rear piece. That's where flashing light's going to go, and I'm going to use a 0.0402 white LED right there, and I'm going to bring the LED up through the hull, and it's going to be exposed, and that's going to be my flasher. And then the green and, the red and the green are going to go up into that. So I've got to recess one under there and work with the plastic, but that is kind of the game plan. So this is essentially ready for light blocking, because I've dealt with both of those, so that's ready to go to light block. On the primary hull, and you know what, I'm going to see if I can find the old one for demonstration purposes. Sorry folks, stay with me. Okay, this is the one from the NX01 that I didn't use. And you can see that those holes go right, boom, 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 right through there. Which is okay, I mean that's exactly where they need to be. But this support structure is right in front of where those holes go. So getting light to bend and go in up underneath there is a big challenge. Even if you put one LED, big LED in here, that's still a challenge. So what I did, oh, stay with me here. Oh, right here under my nose. So what I did, taking my chisel and some of those other things, Stanley knives, I actually carved away, you can see where those sections used to be, carved away those areas where the lights are. And I think it's going to make a huge difference for getting enough light into those corners. I didn't touch up here into the neck, and that's just going to be what it's going to be for this moment. But I think what that'll do is it'll give me a lot more light coming through those windows there in the secondary hull. So those have been drilled. I've also drilled a hole in the bottom of the secondary hull. You can see it right here. I've drilled that hole right there, and that's going to be an anti-collision light on the bottom. On the back, let me just go back to that. I am not going to put an anti-collision light in the top of this, because there's going to be one anti-collision light on each side of the nacelle. So if I've got a nacelle coming off of here and here, there's going to be a light that's going to come blinking off of those. Maybe, we'll see. So that's just going to have its impulse engine blue crystal that goes into that crystal right there. So that's just the nature of the secondary hull is done. Let me get rid of the old one, put that in my spare parts bag. The other thing that is really tiny, so these fit in the top of the nacelle in the back, and this is where I'm going to have a flashing light, hopefully. So I've drilled a hole in both of them that I can feed a white blinking LED up into that for the anti-collision light. And that, my friends, is going to be the that is going to be the most absolute difficult part of this entire build, to I can get wire to it, I can get a light to it, but the challenge is where do you put the resistor? Now I might have an out, because in the nacelles, this time out, in the nacelles, and of course I'm not going to get the right ones here, obviously. Oh, yeah, that works. All right, in the nacelles this time around, the outside has that, over the top of it, has that shield on the outside. So I think what that might do is there might be enough room to lay in resistors along the back here because I've got a light for this. This is where that little piece goes, so there's going to be a blinking LED right there, and then I got a light block it, and then I'm going to have another LED that's right here shining forward, okay, just like we did in the other one, an LED shining backwards to light up that nacelle, and it's really the interior nacelle that we're lighting up, and then a light shining forward into that Bassard collector. So essentially I'm going to have 4 resistors, and they're just really hard to do. They're big. I wish someone would make a resistor that matches the size of the 0402 SMD, because that would help tremendously to get it into line, or just figure out how to do a resistor automatically on that. But I think now that I'm looking at this, what I can do with that shield, and I'm not sure if I've got that shield here handy. Oh yeah, right here. And I'm looking at this, and this might just work. So this shield fits in like that into the nacelle. Fits in like that. So I've got to drill through it, obviously, in order to get there. But what I think I can do is lay in 4 resistors with the wiring. And then once you've got those in, then you can just use one wire coming off the bottom of it, coming right out the bottom of that nacelle, and down to your, well, it's going to be 2 in this case. One for the circuit, that's the blinker, and one light that's going to drive the 1, 2, 3 little SMDs for this other area. But I think I can get there now that I see that I've got kind of a lot of space here to lay in a resistor right into that area on both of those nacelles. And the reason I'm concerned about that is I don't want it to interfere with the interior blue. I don't want those resistors to be showing up. I want that white light or blue light to be able to go both directions. So anyway, that is the challenge on the nacelles and that little tiny part. Both of those have been drilled, and we're off to the races. I am almost ready to light block. It's been just a couple of hours since we've been here, but I'm about ready to go in and light block both the hull and the secondary hull will need to be light blocked, and then we're going to make some more progress on top of that. So, man, what a difference a few minutes can make when you've got an opportunity to. If you've done it before, you know where you're going. You got a roadmap, for instance. So, with that, I will let you go. We'll be back with you after the light. All right, so we are out of the paint booth with primer. Not necessarily just primer, color blocking was really the work of the day. So these have had 2 coats of black primer, and then a coat of white primer to hopefully reflect that around the inside, and then a coat of gray primer, hopefully to bring out the dark lines, and then a coat of white primer on this so far. So definitely getting the stage set. So that is the primary hull. The secondary hull has been light blocked, and one of the keys is I can't really see any light coming through when I put some bright light behind it. Even on the areas where you've got, anytime you have an area that's like this right here, sometimes that lets light through because it doesn't have enough paint on it. But I think we're good there. White primer there on the primary secondary hull, and very excited about that. The nacelles have been light blocked, and actually those turned out pretty good. I'm sure I've got more to do where those seams are at, but for the most part, pretty excited about how the nacelles have turned out. So those are in place. secondary hull, primary hull, nacelles. This is the back that goes over the top of that. So the next thing that I worked on a little bit from the paint booth was figuring out the color of the nacelles, primarily the Bussard collectors. And I don't know why that's pointing back so far. Let's go here. Try that. So the next step was the Bussard collectors. The NX01 is red, bright red. The NX01 Refit is not bright red. It's actually an orange. So what I've done is I tried to source, let's see if I've got it here. I've tried to source an orange SMD, which I've got in hand. And this orange SMD, I wanted to test whether it would be good behind a red. Oh, come on now. Wanted to test whether it would be better behind a red or behind a orange paint. So that's actually orange. It's not red. It's orange. And behind the red, it still comes through really red. And even behind the orange, it still comes through kind of red. But it's not a bright orange on the Refit. And I went to Trek Yard's review of the NX01 Refit. Their video is about 25 minutes long with some great imagery on it. And that definitely is a red. So I think for the most part, that's going to be my Bussard collector right there. And I'm kind of excited about that. I think that looks great. So I'm going to paint the other two, the new ones, which I've got. I'm going to paint those that clear orange. And that's all I did for that one right there, was just use this Tamiya clear orange, the X26. So I used that, and that seems to work pretty good. So we're on our way with color choice for the Bussard collectors. Starting to get my wiring put together with resistors and so forth. The other thing that I didn't do on the NX01, the one I did most recently, I left this, I painted this entire back end blue, and then didn't do any differentiator in the back. Well, it turns out that the impulse engines are just these squares that you see here in purple. Just right there, these squares in purple. What that purple is my use of the fine line applicator that I've got pure purple liquid mask from the detailer. Works great. And essentially what that is, this is an applicator from Hobby Lobby, and it's a steel fine tip applicator, and then it's got this other steel tip that goes in. Not sure if I can do it without my glasses. There we go. But that is awesome, that little piece of equipment right there. So what I did, you saw I had it clamped and then just filled that up, and now it's dried. So the next step is to paint the hull color on the back side of this, kind of like a light blocking. And I might actually do black first for light blocking, and then do the hull color over the top of that. I think that's probably what I'm going to do. And then all this I'll paint blue, because those will be getting the blue LED from this area here. There's going to be blue LEDs that come all the way back to here and to here in order to provide the blue impulse engine light. So that is for the impulse engines. Also, I did these in red last time, which are additional impulse engines of a sort, I believe. That's that little piece that goes right here and right there. And I'm going to convert those to red. I'm just going to paint them red. On the larger NX01, there's detail on it, but there's just no detail to be had at that 1/1000 scale. There's just nothing there. So I'm just going to paint it red and be done with it. The next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to give the lower sensor dome, which is this piece right here, I really would like to, instead of painting that white primer from the inside, I think I want to paint some kind of gold, and I might use the champagne that I was using earlier. That's pearl, wherever my champagne color went. Right here. I might use a real light coat of that champagne to give that a shimmer look rather than just straight white, because I see that on the imagery from the refit, and I think that'll look great. So we've got a little bit of work to do there on the clear parts. The other parts have been primered white. They're ready for hull color. These are the pieces for the rear of the nacelles, and what I've decided to do is I'm going to put a white, I'm going to put a instead of a blinker back there in the back of the nacelle. Let's see if I can get this imagery done here online. These fit in like so, okay? And the imagery I've seen online is that is actually a navigation light, red and green, and then behind it is a white. Anti-nav light, and even on the bottom, unfortunately, there's an additional straight white that would be there as well. So what I think I'm going to do instead is I'm gonna do a green and red nav back there in the back, and with the green and red nav, I'll there we go. So it fits in like that. The other piece, and what that does is that sandwiches down. Get it? There you go. Alright, so that fits in there. This gets painted gold. So what I'm going to do is put a green on the starboard side, red on the port side, light in there, and I'm going to forego a light that is a blinking light on the back of this, because this way I only have to run one set of wires down through the pylons, because I can power a green LED there, I can power a blue LED shining forward, a blue LED shining backwards, and then the orange LED in the front. So there's going to be 4 SMDs in there, and which is great. But to do that, I'm not going to go with a blinking anti-collision light in the nacelles. I am, however, going to make the call. Find the part again. On the back of the NX01 refit, this is a blue impulse crystal that goes in here, just like I did on the NX01. But back here, I'm going to add a anti-collision light back there that blinks. So there'll be an anti-collision light that blinks on the back, an anti-collision light that blinks on the back center, an anti-collision light that blinks on the bottom center of the hull, and then there'll be anti-collision lights that are blinking here and blinking there, and those are going to be the biggest challenge because those red and green are right beside those blinking anti-collision lights. There's also going to be one right behind the bridge, and that's on the top section of the, I think I even already drilled that hole, yeah. So right here, I'm going to do a blinking anti-collision light there. One blinks here, one blinks there. And the nav lights I'm going to do as a solid color. I'm not going to blink them because I've not seen them. Some have them blinking, but most do not, so I'm going to go with not blinking nav lights. And there'll be a red there and a red there, a green here and a green there, green underneath, a green underneath. And then what I'm also going to do is the piece that fits under the bottom side of the nacelle, there's a piece that fits in here. Rather than doing a light there, I'm going to drill through that and then use microcrystal clear to fill it, like a window, and then use clear green to paint over that. And hopefully there'll be some light that comes through that, and then there'll be light that comes, that'll be a bright light up on top, but there should be some light that comes through that based on that blue LED there. Blue and green make yellow, but I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be alright. So that is the plan for the lighting for this, and that's the next step now, is to start laying in all the lighting and do the nacelles, the Bassard collectors, and paint the blue on the chiller grills that go in the side interior of this, and we'll get there. So that is the next step in the NX01 refit. Stay with me, and I know it's a bit of a long update, but stay with me, and we'll come back when we've got some lighting put into this thing. Thank you. Okay, so this is pretty, for me, it's super tiny precise. There's a part, it's this part right here, number 101, that's two pieces, or one piece, and it's got two prongs to fit down into these two-pronged lights. Now, if I want to use one of those prongs for green and one of those prongs for my white blinker, I have to separate those. So what I did is I cut that in half and used one prong. You can see it there, I think, I hope. I used one prong to come out of the nav light. That's going to be my red. There'll be a green on this side. And then when it comes to the white light, and you can see how tiny these are. This is actually orange, but what I'm going to do on the white light for that is those are the 0402s, and they are super, super tiny. And okay, so I think I'm going to have to bring them in from the other, bring them in from the front. So what I'm going to do is bring that in from the top. Those holes are pre-drilled for you already, and right there. So, and I'll even light that up for you to show what that looks like. Again, this is orange, not red, sorry, but or orange, not white, but it's just to get you the idea of what we're trying to accomplish here. And again, this is engineering on the fly, so please forgive me for time delays and other challenges, but kind of the work we do here. Okay, so we'll fire that up on the red side, and we'll fire this up here on the negative side, maybe. Okay, so that's kind of exciting. Oh shoot, just pulled it through. Sorry about that. Let me come back to you in a second after we get this wired back up for demonstration purposes. And I'll just let the camera run and then come back to it here in a second. Again, same thing, feed it through. And then tape. Okay, hey, good enough, because, again, that's going to be a white blinker where that is. Sorry about the timing here, but I don't have any bleed through onto that. There's reflection there, but if I put my blade down in front of it, I'm not bleeding through onto that red light. And so when I do red behind that, I'll do red behind that, light block it off with a little bit of black, pure pigment, but then that one behind it, and again, this is just mock-up, so pardon the crudity, as my good friend Doc Brown says, but that keeps that from saturating both sides of that. Now, a little trick that I used, those parts are super tiny, and because they're super tiny, cutting them off they're going to go flying. So what I did is I just used a little piece of tape and used my knife like that. Okay, so now that little piece is on the tape, and now going through and then put my finger over it, slice down through it, and now I've got a single peg, a single tiny peg there on my tape. Actually two, of course, but I think you get the point. So I've been putting the one peg aside for, that's why I use the tape, because this stuff flies all over the place. So there's the other peg, and this stuff is really tiny to my giant meat paws here. So now that peg is in, and because that peg is in, I now have again a single lens, on top of that, and then the other one will be flush with the hull, and that looks like almost like a piece of glass. So that's my lighting for the nav lights and the anti-collision lights. That's how I'm going to do that in order to hopefully pull off that appearance of a red solid and a green solid for nav lights, and then a blinking anti-collision light, and not have one bleed over into the other. So appreciate the long patience with that, but I wanted to show you how I was going to do that. I have no idea if it's going to work in the long run, but that's kind of what we're doing at the moment. And we'll go about some more of this lighting, and then we'll be back with you. Thank you. Okay, hey, welcome back. We are in the midst of lighting the nacelles and doing that micro soldering, and for me, it is truly micro soldering. I know that a lot of other people can do this much better, and I watch a guy on YouTube take an iPhone apart, and that's true micro soldering, but these are these tiny wires that for me are a big challenge. So each of these nacelles has 4 lights, 4 individual resistors, and the nice thing is that you're able to, there's my green, that's one of the blue, that's the other blue, and I'm guessing that this is going to be the orange up in the front. Exactly. So, just to review, so we can send all of these wires now down through the hatch, so to speak, and the last one is this one here. So the nice thing about the NX01 it's actually pretty cool, is that there's enough space in here to kind of push these down into that external nacelle cover this time out, right? So now it's a matter of when you go to put the other half of this together, you only have one set of wires to work with. Now, once the next step in this is to trim all these wires into two, just one set of magnet wires that's going to go down into the middle of that. All right, so that's fine. Just trying to collect all this stuff. There we go. And now our nacelle fits over something like that. All the wires are coming down, and you can plug it in. And I'm not going to on this one, but that I just finished wiring that one up. This one I did last night, and you know, it takes about an hour to wire up, for me, to wire up these nacelles, because it's so blimmin' tight. But here is the nacelle from the other side. It's from the port side, and essentially I've got the two lights that are in here. Now, one of the things I did is I gave an extra dark coat of this transparent blue on the edges to try to tap that down. And the other thing is that these chiller grills will fit right in there and hopefully hide that super bright spot. But that is how the nacelles have come together. For my research, the NX01 has a significantly more orangish rather than red glow, and that is orange, transparent orange on the inside of that, clear orange. X26 is what I put, painted the inside of that Broussard collector, and it's got an orange LED, so it is definitely much more orange than that red light for the port navigation light. And then, like I said, you've got your two here. So the next step would be to glue this up, tape it off, and then go with our base coat. But I think, you know, once we get it glued up and taped off, it's going to be great. And like I said, what I have to do yet to cram into that nacelle, and there's plenty of room in there. It's even lit up so you can see it. There's plenty of room in there to combine these 4 reds and the 4 neutrals or 4 blacks into one wire, and then magnet wire, and feed it up into there, and then you're just going to have 2 pieces of magnet wire coming out of that nacelle, and then that will follow down right through this trench right here. I haven't trenched it out yet, but that's where those nacelle wires are going to go. And so there's just one set of red and green magnet wire right here. It's going to go down the starboard nacelle, and one set of red and green down the port nacelle, and then that can tie into where, you know, my 5-volt solution anywhere in there. So this has been probably the biggest part of the challenge, but I'm thrilled that the way that little tiny nacelle has turned out so far. I like this color. I like the color of the red. It's just gonna be dynamite, I think. So we're gonna keep at the wiring here and continue with some of this stuff. Now, one of the things that I'm gonna do in the future, if I do something this small, I've been installing the LED and then wiring in a resistor. But I think in the future, a better way to go about that, so like right here, this has got to have this red, both of these reds have to have a resistor built onto them. Okay, and so while I'm doing it, what I'm doing is I'm cutting like right there, adding the resistor in line, and then grafting this back onto it. So basically I'm just inserting a resistor in line, soldering it. But I'm finding I'm wrestling and pulling and tugging, and it really causes more stress on the glued joints, and especially in this clay. I had to reset those a couple of times, which is fine. But to me, that is dynamite. That is absolutely awesome the way that turned out. Especially using the blue LEDs to give us a much bluer light right there. So, but my next round, rather than gluing this stuff in, just a lesson learned, just take the resistor, graft it right in, and then you can glue in your line. You don't have to, you're not trying to solder next to your paint or your model itself, the plastic with the heat. You just do your soldering and then you're ready to go. So that is kind of a lesson learned that I'm just coming to right now, that I think is important for me in the future on doing some of these. I still have to paint. This is the sensor dome, planetary sensor dome underneath the dorsal side or ventral side of the hull. And I'm having a challenge. I don't know how to paint that. What I'd like to do is paint it so that it's gold that lights up. And unfortunately, or not gold, or champagne even would be very cool. Just enough that, and I'd like a clear champagne is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know how to do that. I'm sure some brilliant geniuses out there know how to, but that is a challenge on how to paint that so that it's gold, light gold when it's turned off, and then it glows when it turns on, just due to the ambient light. So I'll try to do some experimentation on that with different paints and so forth. But I just wanted to bring you up to speed on the nacelles. That's the port side one done. Like I said, the other one I just finished up there, and now we're ready to glue that up after I get those wires done in there. And then, man, that's the biggest part of that for me is gluing those up. Then we'll wire the other stuff up through the weekend here, and come to a big progress. The other thing that's done, maybe just to show you real quick. I always need to be careful because I don't have these resistors in yet, but they're glued in. So if I take and go to this, and let's put a resistor on this one so we don't blow those lights. Okay, so the first light that I've got put in place in the secondary hull, just to give you an idea, this is going to be the blue one. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the white. This is the white light. That's going to be the anti-collision light, and I need to make sure I put that was a 300 ohm resistor I just grabbed, and I don't want it to be that dull. I want that to be much brighter than that. So. So that's where the anti-collision light goes. And I think this is the blue one for the impulse crystal. Yeah. And that looks great. Even with a 300 watt in there, that is going to be dynamite for that impulse crystal. And the nice thing is that is blocked off. That is blocked off from the, it's light blocked from the white anti-collision light. So if it's flashing, I shouldn't see any flashing on that impulse crystal, not from underneath. And I've done that before where I put a blinker in, and the blinker, you can see it through the other lights and so forth. But no, I've isolated that. So that is done and taken care of. So that's a secondary hull. The dorsal, and then on the ventral secondary hull, just to give you one more shot here. Alright, so this is what I mean by light blocking from the inside. So that bottom is really sweet. That's going to be an anti-collision blinking light, but you can't see any of that light on the inside. So where there's lights in the hull that are going to go right there. Let me go ahead and unplug this. So as this fits together with this one coming in, there are going to be lights right through here and through there that I don't want a flashing light to show up inside of there. So that is the flashing light. Now I have to add a couple of these LED tapes. I think I'm going to put one there, and I might stretch one. I've got enough room to just do 2 of these bulbs in there, maybe 3 if I do them on the sides, to put one in like this. Yeah, I can do that. So I'm going to put 4 bulbs in there to light this up. I'm going to put one there. I'm going to put one on the other side, and then I'm going to put one here. And I might not need, if I do that, I won't need 4. Alright, hey, welcome back. We are making progress somewhat, and I'm excited about that. That's good. Let's talk about what we've got. So the big key is, or a big hurdle is, we in the royal sense, we have pulled together the nacelles with glue. So there is one, and I'll grab the other one. And we are off to the races now, baby. Of course, the next step is going to be to tape these off, get some more primer on them, and see what needs to be sanded, see what doesn't need to be sanded, and we'll make some progress there. But that nacelle, let's go ahead and just do a little juice there to it. Of course, this is wide, so anything could, oh, look at that. So we have a lovely green starboard side nacelle. Doesn't look like there's any light leaks coming through the top, which is awesome. And it doesn't look like there's any leaks coming through the bottom. So hey, that rock and rolls, let me tell you. That nacelle is orange on the front, the Bassard collector there, and then we've got really nice blue the whole length of that, and I think that's going to show up just really nice. I think that's going to show up really nice when I get the piece, that inner chiller grill. So that is the starboard side. Let's go look at the port side, and that could be a whole different story, of course. Anything could happen here, but we'll take a look. Oh, look at that, everything lights up. Now, a couple of things. I used a much lighter, a far less bright, I used a heavier resistor. That's the phrase I was looking for in that red. I've got no light that's coming up through the scene, except just right there, right where it meets that gold piece. In the back, I do have a little bit of light. No, not bad, but definitely going to take some work there with some putty. So that's interesting. So anyway, I'm going to keep at this, and this is going to bring update number 3 to a conclusion. We've got the top of the saucer is done with its wiring, so that's ready to wire in and go. One of the things I did is I drilled holes in the back here for this section right there, and we'll see if that turns out. If you get some light behind it, that'll be interesting. So that is progress. That is all tidied up, glued everything down, and we've got lights. I don't think I can show those in their totality all at once. So let's just show you real quick a little bit what we can light up. Positives to the front here. and then got a dial in the back. Okay, so really nice nav lights from a red and green perspective. The bright whites over there, those will have paint over the top of them, and I think that'll shade us a little bit from that being so bright. I hope so. So I'm just going to actually just spray over that, hoping that if I spray over the top, the bottoms will still light up, and I think that's going to happen. It's no different than lighting up. It's no different than lighting up a light leak, right? So we're just going to do that a little bit differently. Also, I've managed to light up the three, and this is going to be a little trickier. I managed to light up the three nav lights that are going to go here. So there's one there, there, and there, and those should will blink on and off, and I think those are going to look really good when when we've got those under the circuits for them to blink. So the top of the saucer is now prepped, ready for its next step, which there's nothing to do that until we get it glued in and then start to paint and the Daz-Teching. The bottom is next. I had to wait. This is during the shelter-in-place order. I did get to Lowe's today for a few minutes and picked up a fresh box of heat shrink. This stuff is expensive, 20 bucks, and the only ones I use are these two right here, but I was out of these, and these are the only ones that go over my resistors correctly. And I'm pretty sure that is the 332nd to 364th, and you only get 35 of those. You know, fortunately I cut them up into 3 or 4 pieces each when they go on. So the next step is to lay in all of the resistors under the bottom. Right now all I've got in here for lights are nav and blinkers into collision, both sides, and then the lights that are going to do the same thing with shooting out over the tops of these deals, and hopefully they'll light up where those NCC 1701s go. Hopefully, we'll see. So the next step is to get the resistors on there, and then once the resistors are on, go ahead and put and tidy that up. I still have to lay in all my single-use lights, which are going to go something like this in that section there. So I've got 7 of those to put. I'm going to add a little more because I wasn't quite pleased with the brights on the NX01 that I did, the original NX01. And then I've got to lay in 2 blue LEDs, not SMDs, LEDs, back here into this piece. Now, one of the things I did do is I hogged out this model here in the back where the impulse engines go, because there was so much stuff blocking it that it blocks the light really well. So what happens is that this tag impulse engine fits down into it, but there were a whole bunch of other pieces, and I'll just hold it in with glue. It's designed for the snap tight, so by holding it in with glue, I think that'll make a big difference, right? So that's why I hogged that out on both sides, and on the top, same thing, so it's got a really nice bright shot. And like I showed you in the video, this section here currently has my purple liquid mask, and their back has all been painted blue. So the real key is just to paint the top of this the hull color, because that's what it is in the show, and then go ahead and install it. So that is ready for a little more work, and I'll just hand brush paint that as we go ahead. So yeah, very excited about some of this stuff, making some real nice progress, and you know, so it's continuing to come along. Well, my friends, this brings the NX01 update number 3 to a conclusion. I'm kind of like a minister. What does it mean when he says in conclusion? Nothing, just keep sitting there for another 20 minutes. So thank you so much for liking and subscribing to my videos, to my channel. I appreciate every subscription, and the shares are always greatly appreciated. I want you to stay safe out there. follow the rules, and that's what makes us a society with the social contract there. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and be nice. That's a real tough one for some of us right now, especially me. But until then, until the next time, update number 4, this is the Sloppy Modeler saying go out and build something. Thank you.